foundation of what we do in psychoneurology is really, for you to understand it, it's really about teaching self-love. Self-love is showing up for yourself in a way that supports you. Love will teach you how to do that at any given moment. A lot of times what I express to our psychoneurologists is I give an example of if you were at Disneyland with your child and let's say she was playing and she fell down and hurt her knee and she started crying and you started to run over to her and I stop you and I say, wait, what are you doing? What's going to be your strategy? What would you say? You'd be like, I don't know, but get out of my way, right? Because you know when you get there, you'll be there and you'll be present and you'll watch and you'll do what needs to be done. Doing that for ourselves is not something we naturally do. It's really something that often we need to be taught like other things. So teaching people how to really show up for themselves and how to use their experience and how to use energy and their vibration to maintain that vibrational state, that's truly what a master is. Taking care of your vibration is self-love. That's really what it is. You know, in the world today, where we're headed is to become more and more aware of these things. Paramahansa Yogananda, he was a great example. He's the founder of SRF and Lake Shrine and close contact with Mahatma Gandhi. And at one point, this story goes that that Paramahansa Yogananda was flying back from India, and there was a film producer there. And this film producer, I guess, had shot Gone with the Wind and done other things. And he took a look at Yogananda, and he was just right away appalled by his long hair and his kaftan that, you know, to him looked like a dress. And Yogananda picked up on this right away, and he sat even closer to him and started speaking to him. And at one point, Yogananda softly mentioned the reference of perhaps he would consider meditating or something of this nature. And it's actually this gentleman who tells the story, and he says, "My dear boy, I'm disgustingly wealthy and disgustingly healthy. Whatever could you do for me?" And Yogananda says, "Well, you're not disgustingly happy. I can see that. And that is something that I can give to you." And so the gentleman said he was just irate. He started yelling, and Yogananda said, "My friend, fools argue and wise men discuss. So let's have a discussion. And if at the end of this discussion you agree with my logic, my understanding, my wisdom, then you will pick up meditation. And if I agree with your understandings, then I'll cut my hair and take a back to you." Well, needless to say, this gentleman eventually became the vice president of SRF. And he says that it was 1937. He said, "I was a multimillionaire and I was utterly miserable." He goes, "I had to learn that that true joy comes from not of things of the world." And our understanding is that true joy or true thriving are things that come from the way we use our brain and our nervous system and our spirit, the way we bring these things together. And so those are the people we have define our imperatives. One of the primary architects of our imperatives is a gentleman who comes from an unbroken 15,000-year-old lineage of monks from the Himalayas. And that is the kind of individual that we want defining our highest ideals. And then we can use leading edge technologies and things gleaned from ancient wisdom to help be in the service of creating those. And that's what we do. What defines a totally different paradigm in mental health is that as opposed to finding a disease or a problem and trying to just negate it, we specifically look and tell our brains and nervous systems what to do. And who do we have define that? That becomes a huge question. For us, we have masters, ancient masters, define what is the highest level of human endeavor, what is the highest level we've ever come to in terms of joy. Now, I've traveled around the world, and when I ask parents, what do you truly want for your children? Literally now over 100,000 parents have always told me the same thing. They say, for my child to be happy. Simple definition of thriving is also using your brain and nervous system in a far more elegant way than most people ever will, unless they're trained to do it. Now, we use patterns that we observe in masters to do that. And I'll give you a great example. His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, has witnessed well over 10,000 people being executed and slaughtered in front of him because he's the Dalai Lama. He's been told, because you're the Dalai Lama, we're executing these people. And of course, if he were to give up that title, then Tibet would pretty much, the Tibetan people would cease to exist. So that's an enormous amount of pressure. And yet this person can still organize his brain and nervous system in such a beautiful, joyful way that he could write a book on the art of happiness. And those of you who've met him as well and met His Holiness also have this beautiful sense of his kindness and his compassion and the joy that he lives in. Nelson Mandela, when he came to the Middle East, and those of us who are working on this peace process asked him, what was it like being in a prison for these decades? And we expected him to say it was, horrible and dark. Of course not. He responded in a very similar way to the Dalai Lama, in that he said, listen, I was at peace. I knew if I passed on that I would be a martyr for my people. And I knew if I survived, I would become the leader of my people. And that ability to be able to look at experience and turn it to something good and to be able to maintain good feeling is what we do when we love ourselves, okay? And self-love and self-esteem and self-core, these come from taking experiences and using them in a way that builds us up instead of tearing us down. And that's what true thriving is. When it comes to working with these indigo, these rainbow children, these amazing children that have that volume turned up, or even those of us who are considered extremely sensitive people, perhaps you're one of the people watching this, it would be applying what I just shared with you. It would be applying the understanding of how absolutely great masters have negotiated their lives. And so when you have these children that have the dial turned up, understand that the colors are richer, understand that the volume is louder, but also understand at the same time that it's more important for them than ever to be able to consistently come to a space where they can feel their own presence. Regular, active space for these children to go into the alpha state, whether it's meditation or whether it's relaxation, several times a day is absolutely, I believe, essential for these children to be able to continually come back to themselves, to remember who they are and to have this sense. So when your child is going into one of these spaces where you feel they're quite far, where they're far away from themselves, one thing you can do with them consistently is to help slow them down and help bring them back to a sense or a space for themselves, either with alpha training, with meditation, even some forms of the right kind of Ericksonian hypnotherapy are incredible resources for these children. Okay, it's also very significant that as parents or as educators or as leaders that we realize that there's nothing wrong with these children in any way, shape, or form. By living on this way, they will be able to bring forth a new level of human consciousness simply by being who they are. When we do teach them that they are special, when we help them identify these things, and rather than labeling them in any way as broken, but help realize they're a miraculous, wonderful, amazing child that also could always have additional resources, new distinctions, things that will help them learn, then what you're going to have is a child who can live in a level of joy that very few children ever will, and become adults that'll be amazing human beings in the world. Well, rainbow children, indigo children, are reading energy all the time. So they're completely aware of vibration. So one of the things we need to do is help teach them how to use their vibration, how to guide their vibration, how to emanate in a space continuously that serves and supports them. It's basically called inner nurturing. When we're talking about the model of the Dalai Lama, he's a master of inner nurturing. He's a master of being able to have some references to feel bad, other references to feel good, and to choose references that nurture him and help him show up in the world the way he needs to. And that's the same with these children. What they really need to do is they need the kind of guidance to look at models like true masters and then be able to live their lives consistently guiding themselves and consistently guiding their vibration. So it's a different focus. Traditionally, it's more like we just want to give kids certain tools. It's more than tools now. It's really about resources. It's about inner resources as well. So the ability to balance themselves. A question that might come up that might be, well, do these children learn differently? And the answer is no, really, these children learn the way we all learn. The difference is these children are so vibrationally attuned that the things that we're taught to ignore in the general school system, like vibration, are the very things that are going to speak louder to them than anything else. That's why it's essential that these children learn to build resources. Again, like I said, to use their brain, to use their nervous system. What that really means is to basically be aware of vibration and to be able to tap into their own amazing resources and to be looked at that way. Probably the single most significant thing, if you do feel like your child is an indigo child or a rainbow child, will be that they are going to be tuning in. They will be constantly looking at who you are and how you're coming across in terms of your vibration, in terms of your actual deep vibrational element, as opposed to just digital information or words that you're saying. That means for these children to be in environments that are vibrationally hygienic, that are vibrationally more elevated, is also going to be very, very helpful. And fundamentally, if they're not, it's essential that these children can get the guidance and the support to help them be able to metabolize life experience so that they can continually nurture and support themselves, keep their vibration higher. So if you teach them, they'll very quickly learn, more quickly than many other children may, about what it feels like. And once they get that feeling of what it's like to be calm and centered and focused, they'll have it. They'll have it for life. So once you help them learn that, then they can learn, oh, this is what I'm meant to do. And so as they go into that state, you'll see this child move from what could be considered a problem child to a genius. And that's literally all it takes, is that focus, that internal ability, so they can feel what it feels like to be focused.